Hi friends, here's another experiment. This time it's an experiment because I'm in a strange place. Oh, and if you can hear that, that's Cuddles purring. And he's curled up in my arms here and he's cozy, so we're talking instead of typing. All right, I'm in a strange place. I have always enjoyed science, believe it or not. I really do. I love some of the things that can come from this exploration of things and the beauty of math and chemistry, the whole thing. It's so amazing. I even studied. Uh, I was liable to study anything in school. I even took a course in geology just because of my love of rocks and crystals and things. So. Um, the there's a far-ranging and a far-reaching um, delight in things the way they are. And so every now and then I get on a binge and I watch a bunch of nature programs or science programs. Lately it's been this series Through the Wormhole. And, you know, a lot of times I'll give them a thumbs up, not because I agree with everything that's been said in them, far from it. But a lot of times there are some very good ideas presented, or some maybe older ideas that are presented in a way that makes them easy to grasp, to comprehend and digest. And I think that's great. Um, but I just finished watching one that I thought was going to be one of my favorites just based on the title. It was something about is there life after death, or something along those lines. And instead of being delighted by what was presented, I'm shocked. uh, there's an emptiness and people going wide of the mark on such basic understanding as what am I? What is matter? What's a soul? And it's shocking. It's so mechanistic. Uh, so many have such a belief that matter is all that is. They're extremely materialistic or lost in the matter world. And so they think that a soul, if one exists, has to be a product of, a function of, or an aspect of the biology or the neurology, just physical processes of some kind. There's somebody in this one that's in process of trying to create what he calls a soul. And there's somebody that is crossing biology with computer stuff and developing a new form of life, supposedly. Now it's very basic, it's nothing sci-fi and advanced, but it's empty inside. It's very, very empty. These people are lost. So many of them. I mean, not all of them, obviously, but this is, it's, so much gets down to the bugaboo about death and fear of that. People think that they can really die and that they're so locked into believing that they are the biology, the physical stuff, that they think that when that ceases to breathe and deteriorates and is no more, that they are no more. Well, when you believe like that, you've got to know that that influences how you live life and what your ethics are. I mean, it's not consciously thought of that way or chosen, but our beliefs create an awful lot, and it's some of these people have truly lost touch with their own soul, and some of them have found it. I mean, I'm really glad they closed with this one scientist. I think he worked at Harvard as both a brain surgeon and a teacher of that. And he had what could be termed a near-death experience when he was in coma, deathly ill, brain not functioning. And he was enlivened by it. And you can see it, you can sense it, and you can feel it in his vibration. I think I'm going to have to be more careful with what I expose myself to, because the darkness that these other people are existing in, it's just awful. And I don't know why it is. Maybe it's for everybody that waking up makes you kind of empathic. You go there when you're living in heart. You're experiencing things from the inside. You're experiencing them. It's not like being in your mind where you're learning about something. And you can get very much fired up and excited by that and so on. And there can be the connection of the soul and the mind, or the heart and the mind, however we want to, play with our words here. The being and the biology, can connect. But this whole focus on and almost worship of the brain as the heart of consciousness is misguided. And you wonder, you sit and you ponder, what can help these guys? I mean, aside from their own near-death experience, aside from direct experience, I don't know that very many of these people are reachable, are open to ideas that are drastically unlike their own. And it just makes you kind of sad, How many lives have we lived like that, my friends? These people are not outside of us. There are other aspects of the one self that we are. And it's in all our best interest to care about one another. And that means all of us. There's nobody, when you go in hard, there's nobody you can lock out. We can maybe lock them out on the outside. For instance, we can choose who to have in our circle of friends. We can choose who to associate with. Just because someone's in your heart and is a part of yourself doesn't mean that you invite them in to be roommates, So there's that. But when things are experienced in heart, well, it's so different. It's so different. Sometimes it wears me out wondering if I can pass the experience along. And I can't. I know I can't. It's only those that are ready and willing, those that are in heart and willing to really step off the cliff, that can go with me here. And I know that, because it is. I've done an awful lot of stepping off cliffs. And who knows why you do it that first time. But it's pretty wild. And I know that in order to get where I am, there's been an awful lot of surrender. Uh-oh, no kitty, you cannot walk on the computer. An awful lot of surrender that's gone on. Uh, I have given up. No, little one, means no. I have given up. Well, is there an I that gives these things up? It's not like that. You just morph, you know? There's not subject object things that can be talked about because the subject and object thing isn't real. It just isn't like that. And when someone is stuck in their head, that's all they know. That's really, literally, all they know. And so, where's the bridge? Where's the connect? Well, most times it's in someone's heart, in someone's willingness. I think a lot of times the bridge for us is we get thoroughly and totally disgusted with what we see when we look around at life, and that disgust itself is enough to motivate us and say, hey, sure, I know how I've been living. I know how man lives. I know what all the standards are. I know what all the rules are. And I don't like what it's produced. So I'm ready and willing to try something new. Heck, I'll try anything. There's got to be a better way. And I think for a lot of us, especially in this day and age that's crazy like it is, that is the key to our initial waking up. No. Now that hurts. You guys have claws. Cut it out. No. Excuse me. If your foot's under the cover, it's like it's a toy. And it's not connected to you. No. No. Yes, I love you too. Now cut it out. Sorry, guys. Okay. What to do? Well, I'm really glad. I listen to my videos too, and I'm really glad for the last journal about don't take the weight of the world on your shoulders. I mean, this would be really miserable if I was still in a state where I felt like I needed to feel this burden. As it is, I don't. So it's not that the weight of the world is on my shoulders. This is a different kind of a thing. This is a pain that's felt in heart when you go inside of some people and you find the emptiness there. And you find that the paths that they're on seem only dark. Okay, that's a kitty's ear instead of my mouth. Oh well, we do the best we can, folks. I love critters. And so I cut them an awful lot of slack, especially when they're new to the house. Okay. So what do we do? What do we do? Well, as usual, all we have to do is rescue the self. Everything that we need to take care of and deal with and work out and work through is inside. And when we find these dark spaces and places, even if they were accessed through someone or something else, through something that you saw or read or heard of, your response to it is your own. And if you're in heart, it's your experience of it that's your own. And so there's a kind of pain there. And I think I just think it's important to sit with it and to listen and to watch, to look and learn, What are the answers to the basic questions? When we don't have agreed upon answers to the very most basic questions, things can get chaotic like this. I mean, a simple who am I, which seems really simple perhaps to you or to me. I mean, consciousness is a very reasonable answer to the question. It's not totally right on, but it's a whole lot more right on than most things that most people walking around on the planet have come up with. And if you answer the question, who am I, with consciousness, you find, see, these are the foundation beliefs. And the whole life is structured on them. And so look at the difference that'll be found when you answer, who am I, with consciousness, and someone else answers it with the brain, or the body, or biology, or the mind, or something like that. The whole life that's structured on top of that is going to be radically different. And some people live so much on the shallow surface of life that it isn't seen and it isn't known, these differences. And they don't realize how off the beaten track they may be. I mean, to them, they're following the track that society lays out. This whole idea of what's normal. It's really rather destructive. It's just a concept pulled out of thin air. There's no such thing as normal. Everyone's unique. There's no normal in that. You know? Look at the whole thing that happened to number with the invention of zero. Look at the change that came over it. Well, we need to find the zero in us. We need to find the emptiness that shifts everything and that makes a truly radical, kind of like a quantum leap. But how we've answered the most basic questions really is important. I mean, what is matter? With every atom in existence being barely even there, there's so little matter in it, it's just emptiness. What is matter? I like Dimitri Halley's, I'll mention it again, his latest video. It's a 4-parter in which he contends that it's mind, that we're walking around within ourselves by walking around in the world, or driving around, or soaring, in spaceships to planets and moons and things. It's all the manifestation of the unconscious. Well, when we become conscious of the unconscious, then what happens? Won't everything shift? Maybe it's only out there because we're not conscious of it. I don't know. I don't mean to go too deep on you here, but like I said at the beginning, this is kind of an experiment. I think a lot of times I might go to the written journal, at least partly because when I go really deep like this, sometimes there are long pauses. And that doesn't come over well on the video. I mean, unless people are in heart, because if you're in heart, you're following the flow of the energy as it comes through, and it's still coming through, even when the mouth isn't yakking. So, where are we? How have we sorted out the who am I question, friends? If you think you're anything physical at all, then you've got this whole challenge with death, because you think that's real, because death is real to the things that come and go. Everything's transient. Everything is coming and going, starting and ending and middling along, in 3D. This dimension, if it appears here, that means it's going to disappear. If it has a birth, that means it has a death. That's just how it functions. And we're not that. And it's not really all that difficult to get in touch with the eternality that you find within. As they say, it ain't rocket science. somewhere in the middle of the chest. Just keep putting your attention there and see what happens. Just stick with it. Get stubborn about it. And just don't think. Just be empty, Just be aware that you're in the middle of your chest, and that's where your energy, put a picture there. Put a chapel there. Put a rose there. Put a lotus, anything. A smiley face, whatever. I used to put a big, like a sun with a smiley face on it, and I'd put the big glasses on when I was wanting to look from heart, the big ears on when I was wanting to hear from heart. You can also pretend to take each breath through that central part of you. So as you breathe in, you keep your focus there. As you breathe out, you keep your focus there. If you'll do this with any level of stubbornness at all, you'll have some experiences. You'll connect up with something that once you lock into it, it can't be missed. But until then, it's like, a little bit like Alice in Wonderland. It seems really strange. And it changes you. It creates really wide gulfs because you leave so much of who and what you were and the whole way you had constructed life. You leave it because you see more clearly. You find better ways. Your idea and understanding and definition of truth changes. And of course, we reach for the highest star. We want what's true. We want to understand things and understand how they really are. It's just kind of hard when your beliefs are what's creating things, And so it's hard to help people see that it's working on what your beliefs are that will bring the biggest changes in your life. And it's as we change those beliefs, things like, who am I? What am I? What is matter? What's a soul? What's real? How do things work? The most basic things. As we change our ideas around those, everything in our life changes because those are the foundation. Those are the fundamental building blocks. And then mind and brain comes in and it structures and creates a reality based on what we've accepted there. And unfortunately, a lot of what we've got going on deep inside there in the subconscious and the unconscious is from our programming when we were children. And this planet's been taken over for some centuries now, maybe thousands of years. And so everybody's programmed. Even the elite. You wouldn't believe the way they program their kids. It's a nightmare. But anyway, that's okay because we're in charge now. We're awake, and the flow is moving us on towards higher dimensions and higher consciousness and awakening. And so this is happening, and it's holding us up. It's the wind beneath our wings, and it's supporting us and helping us. And then some nut like me comes along and says, you're a god. Little g, you're not the prime creator. You're not that, but you are what can legitimately be called a little g creator god. You have powers and abilities that even in your wildest dreams you haven't imagined. And they're coming online now. A lot of them have been there all along. Some of this is going to require the fuller connection of our DNA. But I'm sure that's coming along too. That's just a part of the process. Meanwhile, the body needs to keep up. These changes are, I don't know, see, my basic building block about how I structure my 3D reality is that being is more than just the biology. That thing that's called an aura, that's real too. And remember, the electromagnetic spectrum, can't talk tonight, is huge. It's really, really huge. X-rays and gamma rays and all that stuff, infrared and ultraviolet, and the visible spectrum of what our biology can currently pick up is minuscule. And there's so much more. So just because it's not there in your conscious awareness or your biology's experience isn't exactly meaningless, but it's fairly close. In other words, don't hang your hat on what you can perceive with your biology only. And then when we're really blessed, folks, I mean, a lot of good stuff has come out of science. When we're aware that even of our own mind, the conscious part of it is accessing about 7 to 10% of that, well, golly, it I think the biggest problem in science is arrogance. And it's not just science, it's probably in religion, it's probably in government, it's probably just the biggest problem is arrogance, because when we're arrogant, and we've all been there to one extent or another, if not in this lifetime, then in many others, when we're arrogant, we're closed to new ideas. We think we know. And we think that what we know is superior. And so we're just not open. And when beings are not open, well, somebody has to be willing. This is a free will universe. And our free will might not be the fullness of what we'd like it to be. Maybe we wish we could snap our fingers and be wealthy and have a hot mate and, all that kind of stuff. I tell you what, though, even if we could do that, what would be the fruit of it? What effect would that have on the soul? I'm not sure it would be so very good. So, is there an overall message here? Maybe. I mean, if everyone would just work on their own self with coming to understand better their very own self and, spend a little energy on sorting through these really basic questions, it will help resolve the mess that's in the world, because that mess is our creation. And it's the outer manifestation of what's going on inside of us. And the more of us that work through our inner crap, instead of repressing or suppressing or distracting ourselves or getting drunk or doing whatever, going to watch a movie, anything but dealing with it, I say let's deal. Whatever it is inside. I don't care how uncomfortable it is. Whatever it is, it deserves our attention. We're worthy of that. This is the way we rescue the world. I know it sounds crazy. I couldn't care less. So there. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Have a very nice smoke while you're at it. Oh, and journal. Journal your results. One day you'll be glad you did. Talk to you again soon. It's so amazing. I even studied, I was liable to study anything in school. I even took a course in geology just because of my love of rocks and crystals and things. So there's a far-ranging and a far-reaching delight in things the way they are. And so every now and then I get on a binge and I watch a bunch of nature programs or science programs. Lately it's been this series Through the Wormhole. And, a lot of times I'll give them a thumbs up, not because I agree with everything that's been said in them, far from it, but a lot of times there are some very good ideas presented, or some maybe older ideas that are presented in a way that makes them easy to grasp, to comprehend and digest, and I think that's great. But I just finished watching one that I thought was going to be one of my favorites just based on the title. It was something about is there life after death, or something along those lines. And instead of being delighted by what was presented, I'm shocked. There's an emptiness, and people going wide of the mark on such basic understanding as what am I? What is matter? Biology with computer stuff, and developing a new form of life, supposedly. Now it's very basic, it's nothing sci-fi and advanced, but it's empty inside. It's very, very empty. These people are lost. So many of them. I mean, not all of them, obviously, but this is, it's, so much gets down to the bugaboo about death and fear of that. People think that they can really die, and that they're so locked into believing that they are the biology, the physical. Hi, friends. Here's another experiment. This time, it's an experiment because I'm in a strange place. Oh, and if you can hear that, that's Cuddles purring. And he's curled up in my arms here, and he's cozy, so we're talking instead of typing. All right. I'm in a strange place. I have always enjoyed science, believe it or not. I really do. I love some of the things that can come from this exploration of things, and the beauty of math and chemistry, the whole what's a soul? And it's shocking. It's so mechanistic. So many have such a belief that matter is all that is. They're extremely materialistic, or lost in the matter world. And so they think that a soul, if one exists, has to be a product of, a function of, or an aspect of the biology, or the neurology, just physical processes of some kind. There's somebody in this one that's in process of trying to create what he calls a soul. And there's somebody that is crossing